And joining me now, my first guest is one of the most distinguished members of the judiciary, former Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Madan Lokur. Appreciate your joining me, Madan Lokur ji. I want to start by raising the question which the judges have in a way answered in the Zubair case, where they have said that the power to arrest exists, but it must be used sparingly. Do you believe that this message will really resonate, especially among the police forces and the lower courts in the country, who seem to be more than willing to allow arrests to be made in cases like these?
Yes, thank you, Rajdeep, for inviting me for the show. You see, it's like this. What the Supreme Court has said is welcome. There's no doubt about it. But if you remember, I think about maybe 10 days ago, the Supreme Court said the same thing.
Yes.
Right? And much earlier, they also said the same thing, to the same effect, that you may have the power to do something, but that doesn't mean you should do it. Right? So while you have the power to arrest, it doesn't mean that you go around arresting people. So this message has been repeated by the Supreme Court, and so far it doesn't seem to have percolated down to the police.
Which is where I want to ask you, why has it not percolated down, Justice Lokur? Because as you said, the Supreme Court keeps saying that wrongful arrest should not be made. They even went as far as to say India must not become a police state. And yet we find in case after case, only yesterday, a filmmaker has been arrested by the Gujarat police, brought from Mumbai, because he put out a tweet of a photograph of Amit Shah with an arrested IAS officer.
Yes, there are two answers to your question. One is that, even if the police makes an illegal arrest, I mean illegal in the sense that unwarranted arrest, I think the judiciary should be strong enough to say that, listen, sorry, just because you have arrested this person on some charge, we are not going to remand that person either into police custody or into judicial custody, but we are going to release that person, right? Grant him bail. So there, the judiciary has to, firm up and say that, sorry, we're not accepting this.
No, are we referring to the higher judiciary, Justice Lokur, here? Because the real problem seems to be in magistrates' courts, in courts across the country. Look at Zubair's case, where he had to go across half a dozen lower courts across Uttar Pradesh, where the courts were more than willing to put him in judicial custody.
Yes. You see, the person is first produced before the magistrates' court. So really, the lower judiciary, the district judiciary, has to be strong. But there have been instances in the recent past where even the High Court has said it's okay, right? So both, but primarily the lower judiciary or the district judiciary. That's one answer. The second answer is that of accountability. The courts should make the police accountable. Why have you arrested a person for no rhyme or reason, or for some, frivolous reason? You have to be accountable, right? So these are the two answers, and if these two answers are actually implemented, I'm sure the police will learn their lesson.
Let's take that accountability question further, Justice Lokur. Are you saying today that if a police officer wrongfully arrests, if the court deems that he has been prima facie wrongfully or maliciously arrested, if multiple FIRs are filed for the same case, as we've seen in several recent cases, that somewhere the court should say, we are going to actually penalize the police officer for wrongful arrest?
Yes, I'm saying that, yes. Now look at the case of Zubair, for example, that 2018 tweet.
Yes.
Why should that person ever have been arrested for that? I mean, there was absolutely no reason, and at midnight or 2 o'clock or something in the morning, the magistrate says, all right, I remand him to 1 day's police custody. The magistrate should have said, sorry, I don't see any reason for remanding this person to custody. You release him immediately.
But Justice Lokur, you might recall last year, for example, Disha Ravi, an environmental activist, was picked up from Bangalore by the Delhi police, arrested for sedition. A young woman in her 20s, again, for allegedly being part of some Twitter campaign. I mean, the question is, the police officers got away, and those decisions could not have been taken by some lower level police officer. Often they are taken at a higher level and possibly on the instructions of their political masters, cutting across states. So who is, where does accountability end or where does it begin in cases of wrongful arrest?
The court will have to find out where the buck stops, right? Now, the investigating officer who produces the accused person, so to speak, and says that, listen, I want to arrest him. And the court says, sorry, I'm not going to let you arrest him. And I think you've done it, without any good reason. And I'm going to hold you accountable, right? That person will get the courage, assuming he's been told by his higher-ups that, listen, you arrest. All right, that person will get the message across that, listen, I'm not going to listen to what you say because I'm the one who's going to have to pay the fine. I'm the one who's going to have to face the court. I'm the one who's going to be accountable. So unless that message goes, this will continue.
No, because the worry is that that message needs to go not just to the inspector in the police station in, let's say, a Lakhimpur Kheri, where Zubair was produced, or a Hathras, or indeed in Gujarat at the moment, or Maharashtra, where we've seen the Ketki Chitale case, when the MBA was in power. The message needs to go, Justice Lokur, to the political masters, whether it's the Maharashtra government, or indeed the centre, or the Gujarat government.
Yeah, wherever it has to go.
Who's going to, because my worry is that tomorrow there'll be another case very similar and nothing will change. The fact that I have with me, Justice Lokur, is 1840 people, 1840 people in 2020 were arrested for social media posts or statements they made. That's a huge amount.
Yeah, you're right. And if 1,840 people, police officers, are told that what are you doing, and we are going to fine you, we are going to hold you accountable, you will not get 1841. That one person will not come. The buck has to stop somewhere, right? Whether it stops at the political masters or whether it stops at some higher up level, wherever it stops, it has to stop, and the court has to find out where it should stop.
Can the Chief Justice send this message to every court in the country, every lower court? Can they get this message loud and clear that they have the power to, in a way, ensure that wrongful arrests are not made, malified arrests are not made?
No, that's the law. I mean, the Chief Justice doesn't have to tell anybody. The judge has to apply his mind and say, have you made out a ground for arrest? If you've not, sorry. Arnesh Kumar says that. Ask yourself the question, do I need to arrest this person? If you ask yourself this question, you will obviously come to the answer that maybe in a given case, it's not necessary to arrest this person. Then in that case, why have you arrested him?
There is one question that also is being debated: selectivity and consistency. We've seen, and today there are those who are putting out, because society has become so polarized, that in the Nupur Sharma case, why did the Supreme Court initially not give her relief, instead said she has to go across the country and face all the FIRs, held her responsible in a way for spreading violence? And in the Zubair case, they've come out in his favor. In the Arnab Goswami case, the vacation bench met the very next morning to ensure Arnab's freedom and liberty, rightfully so, I would say. But there are others who have languished for months in jail, under trials, faceless, languished for years. So how does the court ensure consistency, Justice Lokur?
I think that's for the judges to decide. One of the main attributes of the rule of law is predictability. You know what the law is, right? So the judges know what the law is. And they should not apply it selectively. It used to be said, show me the face and I'll show you the law, okay, with regard to lawyers. That should not happen. I mean, everybody has to be treated equally. There's no doubt about it. So you can't say that, this person will be favored, that person will not be favored, this person's case will be taken up tomorrow, that person's case will be taken up day after. It shouldn't be like that.
But presumably the Nupur Sharma case, you believe, is very different to that of Zubair. Can two cases be equated, or is each case to be seen on the merits and the facts of that specific case?
Yeah, each case has to be seen on the merits, but there are certain settled principles of law, right? And if you go by those settled principles of law, for example, in Nupur Sharma's case, multiple FIRs, the Supreme Court has in many cases, including, as you had mentioned, in Arnab Goswami's case, there are so many other cases. They've all been clubbed together, right? It's happened today in Zubair's case. They've all been clubbed together, right? So that is something that should have been done, okay? Now, also, in Nupur Sharma's case yesterday, they said that no coercive action should be taken against future FIRs arising out of the same interview or whatever talk show. Okay, but they've not done that in the case of Zubair. They said no coercive action should be taken. Right. That's not the same thing as nothing should be done, because coercive action, supposing they have said that he should be granted bail, right, which means that he can be arrested. But if you arrest him, grant him bail,
So can I therefore ask you in conclusion, what's the larger message? Is the larger message that in this country somehow, when it comes particularly to free speech, free expression, when it comes to particular sections, section 153, section 295, spreading enmity among communities, they can be used even today very arbitrarily by the police, and therefore the real message of today's order should go to our law enforcement machineries? You cannot use these laws arbitrarily, or is there something built into these laws that allow this arbitrariness?
Well, there are two answers again to this. One is the police. They should know that they cannot, interpret the law in whatever way they feel like doing it. Okay? Ask yourself the question, as the Supreme Court has said in Arnesh Kumar's case, do I need to arrest that person? Can I go ahead with the investigation without arresting that person? So the primary responsibility is that of the police or the investigating agency. Assuming they falter, then the responsibility is that of the judiciary. Why have you arrested him? You have to write down why you have arrested him, and look at the the book that these people have. Find out the case diary. Is there any reason given, or is it just that I think he has violated section 153A, so therefore I want to arrest him? That's not a good enough reason.
One final point is part of the problem, Justice Lokur, that many of these cases are caught in the politics of our times. Depending on which is the ruling party in which state, if I say something against Mamata Banerjee, I'm in trouble in Bengal. I say something against Amit Shah, I'm in trouble in Gujarat. If I had said something till a few months ago against Uddhav Thackeray, I'd been in trouble in Maharashtra. If I said something against Mr. Modi, I'd be in trouble across the country. Is part of the problem the fact that politics has now, in a sense, influenced the way the criminal justice system works?
Well, with regard to the police, maybe. I'm not 100% sure. With regard to the police, maybe. But I believe that so far as the judiciary is concerned, they're not involved in politics. And if there are instances of this, it is absolutely wrong and unfortunate.
I want to press you once more on that. Are you telling me, sir, lower courts in particular are capable, let's say in a Gujarat, of resisting the pressures from their law enforcement agencies there, or lower courts in Assam or Maharashtra, any part of the country? Isn't it true that at the lower court level in particular, there are huge political pressures that operate, which some would say also extend at times to even higher courts?
Yeah, maybe. But that's why the judiciary has to be strong and independent. That's the fundamental principle, that you have to be independent.
Are
you
we?
have to be strong.
No, that's the fundamental principle. Are we independent? Do we really have an independent judiciary that can really, in a way, challenge these decisions that are taken by law enforcement machineries whose masters are the political executive? Can that be done?
I'm not too sure. Okay, I'm not too sure whether we are fully independent or not. But yeah,
Are we partly independent? Are we independent at all?
Yeah, partly independent, partly not independent.
You're hedging your bet, but isn't that the real worry, therefore, as we conclude this, that we, in a sense, our judiciary at the moment is subject to all kinds of pressure, even public opinion at times, and that is, in a sense, influencing judgments and leading to wrongful arrests?
Yes, you're right. The district judiciary appears, the perception is, it appears to go along with what the investigating agency says. That's why you have expressions like executivized judiciary, right? That's why these expressions have come about. So there is this perception, and the judiciary has to make sure that the perception is that we are independent, regardless of what happens.
Executivized judiciary, that's a very interesting term that you've just reminded me of, and maybe there's a message in that we cannot allow our judiciary to compromise its independence and cannot allow the police to get away anymore with wrongful arrests, especially on behest of their political leadership.
And
Yes.
accountability.
And accountability. The buzzword from you, Justice Lokur, today is accountability. Someone will have to be held accountable, even if it means arresting police officers responsible for wrongful arrests.
Yeah. Why not? If it becomes necessary, yes.
Okay. Those are very strong words coming from you there, Justice Lokur. As always, I appreciate you joining me here on the news today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.